You know, when we first read this recipe, we really weren't quite sure. It seemed that the proportions really just weren't gonna work out. But we tried it anyway, and trust us, it works. Our recipe starts off with pumpkin. It calls for 1 pint of pumpkin. The best way I've found to prep our pumpkin is to actually slice our pumpkin in half and take out the innards and then turn them upside down on a baking sheet and bake them for about an hour or so at about 350 degrees. And that gets them nice and soft, and the skin peels easily away, and we can get our pumpkin out without any work at all. If you want to cheat and do it the simple way, just buy a can of pumpkin. That'll work just as well. Looks like about half of this small pumpkin is going to be our pint. Okay, that looks really good. Now we're going to add 1 quart of milk. Now this is where it was tricky. It seemed like 1 quart of milk was going to be way too much. Let's get this mixed in here. Our mixture is very, very soupy. Now we're going to add 4 eggs that we've already whipped together. And the recipe calls for molasses. Now, she doesn't tell us exactly how much to use. I played around with this recipe a bit, and 1/2 cup is probably about right. We're not using a blackstrap molasses, but any grade of a lighter grade of molasses. Our last ingredient are spices. We're gonna need a teaspoon of ginger and a teaspoon of allspice. We're gonna pour our pie filling into our pie crust. You can use any short paste for this recipe. It'll work great. We did a previous episode on a short paste, so make sure to check that out. This recipe makes enough for probably 2 pies. This will need to bake about 1 hour and 15 minutes, maybe 1.5 hours at 325. This recipe actually calls for a lattice on top of this pie crust, but it turns out that this is so liquidy that it just sinks to the bottom, so just make this an open top pie. Boy, this pie looks great, and I love pumpkin pie. Normally I'd be digging into it right now, but we're just going to have to wait. We're gonna wait until this final episode of the series where we put together this whole feast based on the Amelia Simmons' cookbook.